the real message in this one is that the worst mobility antenna is the one with the best specs. That's really what I want to explain. We've talked a lot about mobility. Now, what do you need in a mobility antenna? The obvious stuff that you need is, firstly, typically must be small or right form factor. So it's like our puck antennas. We've got bigger ones now called MIMO 4. We're getting some other stuff. And if you really got big vehicles, you can put a swirl on. It's like a cake and a phenomenal antenna, but typically small stuff on vehicles. And it needs to be rugged. And we've got videos, where you hit it with hammers and things. We do make rugged pucks and MIMO 3s, for example. And there comes the nub of it. It needs to be omni. Now, why does it need to be omni? Okay, vehicles, of course, you got a car. Now, firstly, the car drives, okay, so you don't know much about where the base stations are going to be. Does that look like a car? I can put wheels on. Okay. And that car could be in any orientation, and the base station you want to talk to maybe here. But also remember, cars have got steering wheels, they can turn, and that changes it again. Now, a good omni is not defined in any spec. That's what I mean with specs. But gain is, okay, gain is defined, and I'll explain gain now. So what does a good omni do? Of course, a good omni, one assumes when you read omni, but assumptions, I learned very early on, makes an ass out of you and me. Okay, because there's nothing saying that an omni, calling it an omni, does anything like a nice circle. Nice circle, of course, the car can turn, it can be in any position, the base station can be anywhere, and it will work well. Now, what do people actually design? And I've realized they design it not because they want to be nasty. It's because the people ask the engineers to do something that's, say, better than Poynting spec. And engineers like specs, but specs can kill antennas. So they run an optimization package. I've often said optimization. So they design an antenna that's not so omni, especially, and go look at this. I mean, I can show you really respected companies. They publish this. It's not like they lie to you. Now, the problem with an antenna is not the problem. It is the way gain is defined. Not defined all around an antenna. It's defined for that highest point, that point there. Okay. So here, this antenna will give you, say, let's call it 6 dB, 0.4 dB. Now, antenna that's small, okay, cannot, if it is omnidirectional, give you more than about 1 to 3 dB. This is why I say the worst the spec means that the only way you can get gain of this antenna is like a balloon. You have to squash some other places. So this is great. This antenna will have a better spec than, say, a Poynting antenna, which won't be that low in terms of distance, which has, say, a decent spec of 3. Now this antenna you can clearly see is better. And if I draw to scale, this perhaps doesn't illustrate it so well. That is a normal bad omni, and that would be sort of the difference in sort of range. Now, you can see that perhaps here, if you happen to be in the right direction, you can turn your car and you can tweak your antenna to work. But that same antenna, of course, here would not work. It would often be miles down, and here it will be down, and there it will be down, there it will be down. Clearly, in my opinion, this here is not an antenna, it's an abortion. And this is the antenna that you want on your vehicle. Now, this is difficult enough, and go look at patterns, okay? But of course, the one thing that I didn't say there is that this thing must cover all bands. Nowadays, often 600 to 6 gigahertz. It needs to maintain as good as it can. We can also not do perfect omni. You'll see, also at high frequencies a little bit, but go compare, and you'll see that if you go for specs, you're going to have most probably the worst antenna on earth.